Hi everyone, you are listening to She Leads with Carly, and our guest today is entrepreneur and venture capitalist Triin Linamagi. Triin is a co-founder of Sie Ventures, but before Sie, she had her fair share of entrepreneurial ventures and experiences. We talk about the value you get from starting your own venture and the ability to put your passion into it. Yes, it will be hard, but there's nothing truly like it that will teach you as much as starting your own company. I also ask her whether she has pitching tips for women when you go into a pitch deck. You'll hear more, but first and foremost, we as women need to realize we're all equal. It's more challenging for women to understand that and thus find themselves selling themselves short. As you will hear from Triin, this needs to stop and women need to recognize the incredible value they bring to the table. Triin obviously talks about this much more, but I really love this one with Triin and I hope you guys enjoy it too. Hello, Triin. Thank you so much for coming on to She Leads today. I am so excited to talk to you and just hear your story. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you, Carly. Great to be here.
Of course. So, Triin, you are the co-founder of Sie Ventures, which, by the way, I'm so excited to talk more about. But what Sie Ventures is, it's a capital platform that supports the most promising female founders on their fundraising journey. And really, you guys have an ultimate goal to close the gender funding gap by providing these incredible female founders with better access to capital, network, and support. And you've been a part of this venture capital industry. You know, you're a venture partner at the Venture Collective. You've been a part of Global Women in VC, an investor at the Founders Factory. And then even before entering VC, you were also, part of the founding team of 3 incredible companies based in the UK. So we'll talk all about that. But first, what I want to do is take me back to, you in university. You went to Estonian business school. Tell me about this experience. And at this time in your life, how are you thinking about, the next few years in your career? Where did you see your career going?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for the introduction. So I would say that, that was a long time ago, this university times. But, I almost put my papers in to go and study law. I took them out last minute, decided that, I'm not that type of person and I want to build a business because my dad built a business, my mom built a business. And I told to my parents, look, I reconsidered. I'm going to go to business school and I want to study international business. So I really didn't have a goal because you jump from high school directly to uni. This is how it works in Estonia, where I'm from. And then, you would do your bachelor, then think about masters. So I didn't really know at the time what I will do after, but I knew that it will be probably related to something with English related or countries overseas, because I also studied in English in Estonia. So
Wow.
I think after that, I realized I want to really get a practical experience, which is why I jumped straight into building companies rather than actually go and do masters after bachelor.
So first of all, that's already like a crazy, difference compared to American culture. A lot of different colleges is that you had to know kind of before from high school, you had to know what you wanted to do. Was there any, wiggle room in the sense that you're going to business school? Was law still an option? Did you ever have that regret? Maybe I should go to law or kind of dabble in another industry?
No, I don't think I ever had this regret. I always looked back and thought this was definitely the right decision. But I think like a lot what you take away from schools, from universities, is really the network you build there and the people you build these connections and relationships with, right? And of course the
Yeah.
knowledge itself as well, and where it takes you next. But for me, I think, the curriculum in universities as well as, schools nowadays, it's changing a lot and it needs to change. It needs to become more practical, more real life, more hands-on. So I think at the time when I went to university, it wasn't as practical. So I really felt I really want to go ahead and get this hands-on experience. And you usually would take a job right after, or you would go and do the masters. So I decided I want to take a job. And my first job actually was something not related with startups or technology at all. But I stick to that for 4 months, and then I got a really interesting opportunity to join a starting company, which was at the time based in Estonia, but it was me and two other founders, and we started a company in fintech space, and we actually built it in the UK while we were operating from Estonia, and that was really the beginning of the journey for me. In startups at the time, it wasn't even startups wasn't even a word used in Estonia. It was just building a company, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, then I built that, and then this is how my journey in very small companies started, where we scaled to a stage of 100 people, and then I felt, okay, great, but I want to build something from scratch again. So I've always kind of been driven by building from the very beginning and seeing the whole journey from the get-go.
Wow. So, okay, and you mentioned right before we started, you mentioned how your dad, was the one telling you maybe no, you need to go get a master's. Like that's a common way, go get a master's, but you were like, "No, I want that practical experience." Walk me through that kind of thought process, whether you looking back, maybe you should have gotten that foundation in that master's degree and if it would have helped you today, or kind of how you think about it now.
I definitely think it helps, and I think still like in the future I might take a subject that I like and maybe go back to studying. I think though that if looking at building businesses, which was my subject really, is something that I got from this practical experience, because I jumped straight into building a company from scratch. We grew up to 80 people within 1 year, and it was
Wow.
200 people by the end of year two. So it was very fast growth, and you kind of go through this journey very quickly. You learn a lot, and then when I went to build another company, I went through the same, but I was just a little bit more closer to that even. And then I built co-founded a Jobatar, which was more of my own baby, as I felt when
Yeah.
starting this. So looking back after, no, I don't think I thought like, yes, I should have gone and studied more to start this business. But then again, I think, learning is lifelong kind of experience, right? And we keep on learning, and I think there will be always new things we want to learn. So yeah, that's my answer for that, I guess.
Yeah. So, Trin, okay, you started one company, you wanted to start another one, you started another one, and right now it makes it look like easy essentially to start a company. And I know it's far from that, and it's taking a risk, it's a scary thing to do, but kind of walk me through your thought process or maybe some tips you have. Was it, all smooth sailing? Were there challenges you faced? Because you make it seem like it's this exciting. I know there are challenges though. So tell me about the experience kind of as an early entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And I think one thing I learned very early, obviously joining these early stage companies, I joined as a first employee for both of the first companies, and then built the company with two other co-founders, and built it up to a stage. Yet when I started with Jobatar, we were very closely working with Simon, building the company up from scratch, really starting to build the product, understanding what our customers want, and within the 3.5 years, I think I had more learnings than I ever had before with the previous two companies, because it really depends how close you are and who's driving the companies. And I always joked about it, saying to my friends, well, it's easier to first learn using other people's money rather than your own money when building your company. So I think the first two were a great learning curve, but I think I got my biggest learnings from building Jobatar when I was actually much more hands-on.
Mm.
And it definitely is very hard, because I think you're constantly juggling in between product, customers. We were enterprise software, right? Then the sales cycles in enterprise sales are very long. Then you need to think through, maybe we should actually start targeting SMEs instead. Then you're like, okay, well, we need to actually raise right now, because the enterprise sales cycles are really killing our cash flow, right? So
Yeah.
so I think there are all these kind of things you have to juggle with, and your team is small, so you have to constantly do everything yourself, and be at your best and show to your customers that they can trust you. You're a solid business. You're not some sort of a small startup. they can trust you. You can provide top quality service, and I think this is the hardest, because you don't, at this stage, you don't have the resources, the money, the time to do it as perfectly as you would like to, but you have to show and perform as you would be on your best, at your best, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think at the same time, right now, I'm going through the same again. I think it's always easier, to go and work for others, but I think it's so much more, it gives back so much more when you do it yourself and do it for you
Mm.
and you're passionate about it, because nothing equals with a passion that you have of building what you truly believe in, and see that it's impactful, and no matter how hard it is, it's not comparable to anything else.
Oh, I love that. I think I can tell even as you speak the passion that comes through. So I love that. I'm curious, did you have mentors along the way kind of helping you through the tough times, or navigating you through how to work in fundraising, or the focusing on the customer, the or even scaling and hiring? Did you have people helping you?
Yeah, so no, actually. Honestly, I never had a mentor who followed me throughout my career. There was a point in my career where I was really looking for a mentor, because I wanted to move away from an operator role and get into venture capital, and this was a very big a leap to take. So this was the time when I was actually researching a little bit who I could have as a mentor to support me and guide me through this shift. Um, I finally didn't end up finding one, and I just jumped straight in and joined an accelerator called Startupbootcamp, where I just gave back everything that I've learned myself as an entrepreneur, and started to work very closely with the team there, with the founders there, and from there on, actually, my journey continued in Founders Factory and investments team already.
Yeah, so when was that transition? When was that transition into, when did your passion for the investing side come into it?
I think it already came in when I was building my company with Simon at Jobata, and I
Mm.
think it was also because when you're trying to raise and you're speaking to a lot of investors, and you're trying to understand what really makes them click, and what they really love, and this process, like, really started to interest me a lot, and I think this is where it kind of started to get to me, that okay, I want to go to the other side to learn a bit more. And I've
Mm.
always been driven by challenges, by changes. So I always need a change in my life, in my career, a challenge that I can overcome again. So I think I felt that, like, great, I love building businesses, and I think I want to come back to it one day, but I want to try something else, and I'm quite interested in what's happening in venture capital. And look, that was 2017, I think, 2016, no, 2016, actually, yes,
Yeah.
2015, 16. So 5 years ago right now. So yeah, and then I realized that it would be great to stick to early stage. This is what I know. This is where I can add more value. And I've gone through the journey in the very beginning, and I think it's always more interesting to work with early stage companies, because you can see the gaps in the market that they're solving, and you can work very closely with the teams, and I think that's the interesting part of early stage, really. Focusing less on the financials, but focusing more on the product market fit, focusing more on them as a team, and helping them and supporting them by growing this team and finding the right people to build it with, and then testing this on the market and with the customers, right? I think these are
Yeah.
the really exciting things, and this is why I always wanted to do pre-seed and seed investing, since I feel I can familiarize with the founders, I can put myself into their shoes and really understand what they're going through, because I've done that and seen it closely myself.
Yeah, so now that you are almost on, the other side of the table, if you will, and looking at the entrepreneurs, what advice would you give an entrepreneur approaching, for pre-seed investment, seed investment that maybe you didn't know when you were an entrepreneur and you needed funding? How would you help them today when they're approaching an investor?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of things. I think what I would do first, I would do a proper research of what type of investor do I, first of all, want on board, how much do I want to raise, really figure these things out first. Do I want to raise a smaller round with angel investors and maybe want to create funds who can support me on the way? Do I want to take in a couple of million VC funding to get go? But then also push the growth massively from day one, and be ready that I really need to move super fast. So I think these are the two options. And then of course, when going out to investors, not really spend time on speaking to everyone, but really understand what investors are the right investors for me. Do they have experience in this space? Do they invest in that early stage, or whatever the stage is? Like, all these things are very important, I think, before you start putting your time and resources on these conversations.
Yeah.
I think these two things were actually the biggest learnings.
Yeah, and also kind of going off of that, how important is it to balance, you have the experience and the expertise in that domain, but also the person and the relationship aspect, and how much they're going to be at your side during the dark times. Like, how would an entrepreneur balance those two to find the ideal?
Um, so can you kind of explain the question a bit? You mean
Yeah, of course. So basically,
how the yeah.
I heard a podcast earlier today, and they were saying, when you're choosing an investor, you should be thinking of, they could potentially be at your side for 100 years, essentially. Like, they're here for the long term. And so it's, how do you balance, they may be an expert in that field and they could really add so much value to your company in that type of domain. But what about, as, thinking of them as an actual mentor, a person that you want at your side and they could help you through those hard times?
Yeah, I think this should be the first thing you think about, right? Because actually, at some point, the capital becomes secondary, because what you really
Mm,
need is someone really hands-on who will help you to think through, your either your go-to-market strategy, or help you to raise your next round, or think through who your next hire should be. Bring some more connections to you around your customers, or at least ideas of where to get to them. So I think that the value add and the support is number one, and the capital is actually number two. That being said, I wouldn't say to any entrepreneur that you should rely on your investors fully. You should. Every investor wants to invest in founders who can deliver themselves, but they would love a sounding board. So investor for you should be a sounding board, and someone who can help you to bring more of the network in, and connect you. But you obviously should be as independent as possible. But I think it's so important to think that through before you go and take the capital, because it is a long-term relationship. And maybe in pre-seed rounds, you might think that these investors wouldn't play as big role in the future because you haven't raised your Series A yet. But then, the first investors will actually determine your next round, because they will either follow on, or they will bring in other investors who can support your next round. And from there on, you might actually have the same investors after your Series A supporting you throughout your
right.
journey. There are cases, obviously, where funds don't follow on through Series A, Series B once they've invested in pre-seed and seed. So I think you need to kind of think through and validate that with the conversations that you have early on with the potential investors, and understand what you want, what you don't want, what they offer, what they don't offer.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. And so tell me now what C Ventures is, and your inspiration for starting your own VC firm, and obviously the problem in that, the whole gender gap, and closing, and your mission to close that gender gap. Tell me a little bit about that inspiration and how it's going.
Sure. So with C, we started really C to to help female founders to get a better access to network. We truly believe that men have just an advantage when raising capital. And the reason for that is purely just because most come out of financial jobs or don't have to take a career break. They have the networks that will support their fundraise, whereas women often don't and just have to work much harder on that. And this was the number one reason why we wanted to set up C, to provide women and female founders a platform where they can get access to investors, where they can get access to support and mentorship on fundraising and all the aspects they have to think through before they go to the market, or if they are already fundraising, what could help them to gain this momentum around their fundraising. And for that, we thought investors are best placed to be the supporters, the ambassadors for these female founders. So we are pairing investors with the founders to support them throughout a 3-month program where they become an ambassador for one founder and support them through their fundraising process. They dedicate a certain amount of time every month. So what really made us do that, and what our end goal is we really want to also raise capital ourselves to start investing in female founders to really move the needle, and we are on our way towards that. Right now, the platform is working really well. The first cohort is full on, and we want to also get all the feedback and experience from the investors and the founders. So I think if you look at US market, where probably a lot of your audience is also from, if you think about US versus Europe and UK, we are a little bit behind in Europe and UK, but I still truly believe that, you know, we can catch up fairly quickly if we do something like that, because the biggest point from fund side is we can't invest in female founders because we don't have access to these networks. We have a pipeline problem, basically. So what we're trying to solve for funds with C Capital platform is solve this pipeline problem, provide them this access to female founders, and see that there are some great founders out there, and we do a lot of vetting before we actually put them on our platform.
Wow, so amazing. So tell me, you decided to start C Ventures, you know, at the heart of COVID. It's been a pandemic, and it's not an easy time to start a company. So how has your experience been, you know, during this time you have experience starting a company, but now you're starting your own VC firm. So how has that experience been, especially during this time period?
It's the best time to start a company because you don't have any other distractions, going out with your friends or traveling.
Yeah,
So
that's very
you're just locked in your house and you're just working. So in that way, it's actually a pretty good time to start your company. Obviously, that being said, to raise for your company, it's slightly more difficult because you don't have the face-to-face time in real life. You have only Zoom time.
Right.
So that makes fundraising a bit difficult. We are not fundraising yet. We are getting there soon. Hopefully, we're out of the pandemic by the time. So it's been I think it's been intense because you're constantly working, and at the same time it's, I think, a very good time to start a business because you can put all your energy and passion in it and you don't really have any other distractions. So so actually for us, I can't complain. It was a great time to start a company. That being said, when pandemic started, I saw a lot of companies struggling, and particularly because no one was used to Zoom calls. Investors froze their investments because they're trying to kind of cope with this new situation on not doing face-to-face meetings, and also understand how they support their portfolio, what the strategy is going to be going forward. I think, you know, we've already got used to it, and we're in place now where a lot of funds are investing online through Zoom calls, and it's not such an issue anymore. Raising funds, I think it's much more difficult in pandemic, but I've seen some really great funds raising big amounts last year, so it is possible for sure.
And what advice would you, so, you and C Ventures are fulfilling the goal of really helping female founders. And, given your experience as a female founder throughout your career, what advice would you give other females when they're, walking into a room with, they see probably five male investors or whatnot? I'm kind of thinking of like Shark Tank in my mind almost. But you have this idea where, male investors and a female founder, how would you say they approach it, or what kind of maybe affirmations they should be telling themselves or confidence that they need to give themselves before going in?
I think when women go and start presenting or speaking to investors, they shouldn't differentiate themselves as women. I think
Yeah.
we're all equal. And I've always said that my first companies I built with men. No complaints. It was awesome. I loved working with my male colleagues. Um, and honestly, I think we can learn from each other. I think it's just one big difference that women have to think about is, and prepare and practice more, is how to sell yourself very confidently, how to not
Mm.
undersell yourself. Because what I've seen a lot, and I'm working right now as well with some really great kick-ass women, and they're just exceptional. And what I would just, and what we always say to them is, don't undersell yourself, because you need to find the points that you can bring out that relate to your business, that how you are the right person to build this business, and why your experience and your background are making this a success. Because eventually the investors invest in you, and the more confidence you have, the more relations you can build between you, your background, and the business, and the bigger visions and the bolder visions you have, the more success you will have actually closing this round. So I think that's what women need to just practice a bit more, and what we are just sometimes not so good at is just selling ourselves more, and really being more confident about ourselves. And definitely not, don't think about yourselves as a woman. Don't
Mm-hmm.
think about yourself as underserved sector or anything. We are all equal. We all have equal rights to pitch, to present, to have the capital. It's just the way we deliver is what matters.
Yeah, I love that. I think even for me, asking that question, type of, singling out as a female, I don't like it in a way, because that's not the idea. It's almost this like self-fulfilling prophecy, going in thinking you're a female. It doesn't have to be like that. Like, we're all equal. So I love that you said that. I think that's great.
Absolutely. And even with C, like we say we're supporting exceptional female founders, and yes, we are. But it doesn't mean that we don't work with diverse teams. Not at all. Actually, what our
Right.
goal is, and what we're building with our fund in the future this year, it will be focusing on teams where you have at least one female founder in the core founding team that owns equal ownership of the company. This is what is the goal for us.
Yeah.
And really, we strongly believe that diverse teams are the teams that bring the best returns, and it's proven in real life. It's proven through lots of research. So this is really what we are aiming for. But what we really want to change is, we want women to have equal ownership in these businesses that they're building, or co-building or co-founding, and really to take the lead.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, it sounds so great. And so, Trin, before we get to the fun questions, I do want to ask you, what is your idea, or how do you think of goal setting? When you think of the next step for C, or for yourself personally, or your professional growth, how do you think of that? What are some actionable items that you do?
Yeah, goal setting is a. I'm really bad at long-term goals. I'm very much into short-term goals. It's so much
Yeah.
better to live life in its moment rather than plan
Yeah.
ahead too much. But my, like, how I'm thinking of goal setting is really starting from the big vision, and then trying to chop this down into what is achievable in certain time frames in short term, and then what should be our vision and what is achievable in longer time frames. And based on that, I tend to set my goals. So in terms of like professional kind of career development and goals, um, I've never had to kind of do that, because I've never been really part of a corporate entity as such. So I've always kind of been hustling, building startups. So
Yeah.
it's really constantly being on the momentum and making sure that the next steps are the right steps, but you tend to not think 5 years ahead. So so we tend to
Yeah.
think a little bit less ahead. Whilst right now, when building C, we are actually thinking 5 to 10 to even 20, 30 years ahead, because we do want to build a fund. So I think that is very important. I think what we women tend to forget a lot about goal setting is our personal goals. We tend to kind of think about our
Yep.
career goals, and we forget ourselves, because as women we have other obligations in our lives, so we need to make sure we keep the sanity. We can make time for ourselves, for our families, and not get lost when we're building the companies, when we're taking the leap in our career. I think this is so important when setting goals. And I've in past not been very good at it, but I'm starting to get much better as I'm getting older. So when I
Yeah.
would what I would say to younger me, I would say, when you plan your goals, actually plan a little bit ahead and think more about you, rather than only on your career.
Wow, I love that. I love that. I think I've never heard that before, and I think it's probably due to the fact, as women, we want to kind of be put in that box where I have a career. I want to do this for my career, but it's important to really like reflect on you and just yourself. So I love that. I think that's great.
Absolutely. I think what we tend to forget is we don't do this for someone else. We shouldn't do that for how we are perceived externally. We should
Yeah.
really think what we want personally, and not think about the external factors as much as our personal goals and ambitions.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, Trin, as for final two questions, I've loved this conversation, by the way, so really thank you so much. So, as our final questions, one, tell me about a passion you have that's just, completely unrelated to any work, just a passion that you do.
Yeah, a passion for me. There's probably two passions, which is very limited in during the pandemic. But traveling is something
Yeah.
that just feeds my soul. I could even just take weekend trips somewhere in Europe. Is where I'm based in London. It used to be very easy to travel, just off
Yep.
for 2 days, work remotely for 3 days. But this is what I'm really missing, and it's one of my biggest passions. I don't need long holidays. If I can just switch off and travel during a long weekend, it's actually enough for me. Um,
Yeah.
the other thing, what I'm really passionate about, and it's something from my childhood, is probably dogs. And it's a really weird
Mm.
thing how I absolutely love dogs. And and
I
I'm
love it.
I'm I'm just I'm really passionate about I just animals in general. I think are really good energy for you. Either it's horse riding, hugging your dog. I think, but for me, something it just I grew up with dogs, and I'm very I can't wait to have a dog in London, but it's just very difficult in a city life.
Oh, that is so I definitely agree with that. I love dogs. They just bring so much joy, and so I can agree with that.
So much joy.
So, as a final question, I'm actually going to show you mine first, but what I'm going to ask you after is to tell me a hidden talent of yours. So a fun or weird thing you can do, or that something that you can do that not many people know about. So what I do is I throw a blueberry into my mouth and I catch it after throwing it. So let me give you an example. All right, we'll see how this goes. There we go.
Oh my God. You have so much better talents than I do. I honestly.
No, Trin, this is years of practice. Trust me.
Okay, I have to find a better talent for myself, because I don't think I have that many. I think I have actually two talents. One is okay, again, they're work related both. I think I'm pretty talented at building strong relationships, not just with work actually. I would say just in people in general, and I've
Amazing.
been just pretty good at it. I think, and I think it's very important talent, in your personal life, but also in your career. But what
Definitely.
I've discovered quite a few times is like what my talent is. I think I'm pretty good at design stuff. Like I designed our website for C, and you know and I thought
Wow.
it came out pretty well. So, and I
I
kind of
love the
like it,
website,
but
I must say, yeah.
I've never started anything like that. So, but I have something creative there.
Yeah, you have a natural knack for design. Wow, that's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, I think so.
And
Well, I'll keep that for the time. Nothing else works out. I might consider to become a designer.
yeah. Okay, I just have to ask one follow-up based on your previous talent about relationships, because obviously that is so important. If you could just pinpoint one key tip that you see, yourself doing when you're making a relationship that others may not do, or that it's very important, what would you say that is?
I think
Mm,
being genuine with people, being not about you, being more about people and genuinely understanding what drives them and what gets them excited, and really listening to them.
yeah.
And I think going back, being genuine is so important because you can put as many, masks in front of you. But I think I struggle connecting with people who are not genuine. And but I love connecting with people who stay true to themselves. So I
Yeah.
think it's a very important thing, and just be genuine, stay true to yourself, and be very open. I think these things are very important building relationships.
Wow, I love it. Those are
And
so good, and I
sometimes you
love
have
leaving
to
it off.
just and sometimes you just have to give a little bit more before you expect to get back. And
Yes.
sometimes you shouldn't expect to get anything. Just be open, connect people where you can, be helpful. That's it.
Oh, I love it, Trin. That is amazing, and I love ending off on that note. So, really, thank you for coming on to my show. I appreciate it. I'm just so excited for others to hear you and just learn from you. So, thank you.